Look at the time now. Look at the time now. Look at the time now. Got it, pop in the DVD. Sit back and enjoy the super awesome BVM. How's it going, muggles, witches, wizards? I'm Katana. Welcome back to another BVM. The first one of 2019. I know 2018 was an off game for me. I missed Halloween. I kind of missed Christmas. I mean, Carrie wasn't exactly the winter horror I was hoping for, but yeah, it was something. That was supposed to be for Halloween, but I delayed it for too long and just moved it to Christmas. Kind of Christmas, but whatever. Anyways, 2018, not my year. This year, however, we're going to start off strong because I've been putting off Harry Potter for like an entire year now. It should have been the Christmas special, but now it's like the new year. It's the eye candy. It's the opener. But yeah, it took. And I didn't want to rush this because first of all, have you seen this book? 870 pages long. I mean, Jesus, what a monster. And the question we asked today is, was it worth it?
Probably not.
And here's a fun fact about our new editor, T-Kim. She hates Harry Potter.
I don't hate Harry Potter, yeah, I hate Harry Potter, sue me.
But why? Why, T-Kim? Did the wizard hurt you as a child?
Nah, Harry Potter just wasn't something I was into as a kid. Respected it. I respect J.K. Rowling too, I just really flippin' hate it.
Come on, there's gotta be at least one thing you like about it.
When it ended.
Well, this is gonna be torture for you then, because we still have 2 more books to go. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix by J.K. Rowling. Let's read. Harry Potter has now reached the ripe age of 15, in which everything and everyone sucks. His summer has been a complete hell with the Dursleys and barely any contact with his wizarding friends. He almost dies by the hands of some rogue Dementors, and even when he comes out the hero, the Ministry threatens him with expulsion for using magic in front of a Muggle. His friends made it as prefects for this year. His nightmares about Cedric and Voldemort have been getting worse, along with the strain of his scar. And to top it all, the OWL exams are around the corner, meaning that his school life is going to bury him with homework. The list goes on, but the main point is that there's a lot going on with Harry this year, and it has come to a point where his emotions and rage finally unleash, whether it be rational or not. The kid had enough and demands answers and attention. But will it be the key to solving his problems, or drive everyone he loves away? We're way past the charming and innocent kids. We're reaching the teenage years, so expect a lot of awkwardness and attitude with this one. Harry Potter is still the boy who lived long enough to experience things an average Hogwarts kid shouldn't, and lets all his frustrations blow up at once. And before anyone complains about his anger being the worst thing in this entire book, have you been following along? His behavior is justified. 4 times his life was in danger, and it never seems to stop. No one aside from his friends believe him about Voldemort coming back, and the papers make him out to be this crazy or attention-seeking kid. He doesn't even have time for regular teenage stuff like understanding the inner workings of the female mind, or keeping up with his studies and Quidditch. His only major personality change is striking to most readers, and it takes a while to get used to because his first introduction of hormonal anger is a little unlikable and makes him antagonistic. There were times where I did feel he went a bit too far, when he kept lashing out at Hermione and Ron, his best friends, to the point where their conversations felt hostile, or when he did a bit of lashing at Mama Weasley at the beginning, like what did she deserve that for? But when he started yelling at his owl Hedwig, I was hoping the Dursley would come and slap some sense into him. Bits like these made me hate him, but for the most part, I knew where he was coming from when considering his journey up to this point. That aside, the others are there, but not much of them is explored. Ron Weasley has 2 things going on for him this year. To everyone's surprise, he became a prefect alongside Hermione, but that doesn't make him any better as Hermione's the one actually doing her duty while Ron blends into the background. The other news is that he's the new keeper for the Gryffindor Quidditch team, but like the prefect position, you can already see where that goes in terms of talent. At this point, we know Ron well enough that if you put him in some out of place character position, we know exactly what kind of hijinks it will lead to, and surprises us even more when he blows away our expectations. Nothing much goes on for Hermione Granger in this book. She's more involved with the owls and tries to make sure her friends don't fall behind. In fact, she was the one who spoke up about the lack of magic in the new defense against the dark arts lessons. She's really just a mediator keeping Harry in check, complimenting Ron's stubbornness, and knitting hats in hopes of tricking the Hogwarts elves into freedom. Fred and George Weasley still reign as the pranksters of the school, now perfecting their merchandise thanks to the tournament money Harry gave them from the last book. It's impressive that with each story, with just the right amount of attention, they have their own adventure going on with trying to prove themselves without the needs of an education, and this book reaches that particular peak. And as always, we got my boy, Neville Longbottom. He really shines during the second half of the book and is becoming my favorite character of the series. We get more in depth with his backstory and his growth as a wizard. You kinda expect this from the original trio, but it's nice to root for the underdog. He continues to be lovable and accepted in his own clumsy fashion. And like any other Harry Potter story, we are introduced to some new quirky characters. And I mean quirky. The Order has its select number of members, including some you've met already, but Nymphadora Tonks makes her presence known. A little on the clumsy side too, seeing as her scenes can't be complete without something crashing or breaking. Sadly, her scenes aren't that frequent, which is disappointing. I can imagine a character like that having a larger part aside from the Order and Sirius's mansion house. But at least we have Luna Lovegood making up for it. She's the definition of weird and quirky. By her speech and mannerisms, you can tell that she's the odd one out, but doesn't care at all. Her father is the editor of this bizarre magazine called The Quibbler, which doesn't compare to the Daily Prophet in terms of quality news. People think she's lost a few marbles, but honestly, she would be the chillest girl in real life. She speaks her mind and contributes to the cause however she can. But we cannot forget about our new showstopper, our new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, as well as the Undersecretary of the Minister and the High Inquisitor.
Are you done?
Headmistress. Dolores Umbridge is by far the best villain this series has seen. Holy crap, the thousands of times I wanted to punch her in the face for how infuriating she was to Hogwarts in general. The way she worked away from being a secretary to the minister and aiming for Dumbledore's chair. She had the whole ministry on her back, so for the majority of the book, she's untouchable. Every attempt against her will feel like a waste of time. Any ounce of victory will be countered with a stupid rule or punishment. She actually turned the school into a prison, and I could feel the threat of her presence. She was designed to be hated, and Rowling did an impressive job creating her. When the going got tough, they were tough, and you would cherish any victory the heroes got, even if it was brief. Overall, the cast is as colorful as it always has been. But the same can't be said for the story's tone, which plays into the book's strengths. As the story evolves, so does our main characters, and the sad fact is, they're not kids anymore. We have reached the awkward hormonal phase of their adulthood, and this book carries a lot of those elements. Clearly, Harry was given enough of that teenage angst for everyone in Hogwarts, and with the circumstances, it's very exaggerated. But we also have the idea of rebellion. With the threat of Voldemort on the loose and Umbridge taking over Hogwarts, someone needs to step in. Dumbledore is doing his part, and Harry decides that it is the year he takes matters into his own hands. If the Daily Prophet ain't listening to the truth, he'll just talk to another source. If the law-abiding teachers can't get through the nuisance of a certain toad face, then maybe some pranksters will be of assistance. This is the book where it gets edgy and chaos reigns supreme. But can I really consider this my favorite Harry Potter book? Not so much. This is my one and only criticism, and has nothing to do with the book, but my own personal taste. As a reader who's now 5 books in, it has reached a point where the extraordinary becomes the norm. You know what I mean? J.K. Rowling had a routine of writing these stories. She kept them balanced in a way you can get absolutely sucked into the world. For Sorcerer's Stone, it was Hogwarts. The Forbidden Forest and Chamber of Secrets, Hogsmeade and Prisoner of Azkaban, World Cup and Goblet. But for this one, we got the Ministry of Magic, which was interesting to see how wizards are in an office setting, but the overall feel of it was dry. Each book had a good amount of whimsy and plot, but this just felt like it was all plot. And this isn't a roast against the plot. In terms of story, this is the one that provides you with satisfying answers and the next giant step towards the end. But if you were expecting to experience the magical side of things, there's not much here. A lot of pages spent on house cleaning, homework study, and Harry's nightmares, trauma, and sass. This is not that bad a book, but for Harry Potter standards, if that makes any sense, I wouldn't put it on my top 3. I might have made it sound like a headache to read, but at the end of the day, it's a Harry Potter story, so you know it's going to engage you in some way. Dolores Umbridge is a fantastic villain. The age of adolescence is represented well here, and if you enjoy learning more about the world of wizards, this book has a ton to offer. Not my top 3, but still an enjoyable read. And those are my thoughts on the book portion, but I know what you all came to see. With a thick book like this, was it possible to adapt it into a movie? A good movie, nonetheless. Sit back and relax as we analyze this question with Davy Yates' take on the Order of the Phoenix. So our movie begins on a hot summer's day with Harry swinging in peace until Dudley and his gang of goofs show up laughing about the victory over a 10-year-old. And looking as stupid as the troll from the first movie, Dudley is teasing Harry hard about his frequent nightmares of Cedric's death. And from the way things are looking, I hope his attitude wasn't toned down to a punching bag, because this wasn't a one-way fight. Harry threw the first punch, not the last.
Where is your mum, Potter? Is she dead? Is she dead? Is she dead, Potter?
Oh, they laugh, but they don't realize that Dudley's one swish and flick away from turning into Porky Pig again. Suddenly, the hottest day becomes the coldest one as the sky drops to a depressing blue. They continue to run under a bridge where the place starts to freeze, meaning the Dementors have arrived to hold down Harry and Dudley. And that's it! Weird way to end the series, but this is the way Rowling envisioned it. I hope you all enjoyed this 4-minute movie. My final impressions are pretty adequate. Unique choice of line, JK! Harry drops a quick Patronum at the Dementor saying they're flying, along with the one French kissing Dudley to death. Then Mrs. Fig just comes out of nowhere to help Harry get back home. She says that she's been appointed by Dumbledore to watch over him instead of Mundungus from the book. Honestly, I would have went with Tonks or Shacklebolt. Literally anyone but a squib. Anyways, Harry carries an emotionally drained Dudley home, and of course gets blamed for his condition. And before Vernon could punish Harry, one letter, and only one letter, does it for him.
As a clear violation of the decree for the reasonable restriction of underage sorcery, you are hereby expelled from Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry.
I can't tell you how funnier this scene is in the book. The Dursleys would just keep reprimanding Harry, and an owl will come in every now and then to deliver a message and change the severity of Harry's dilemma. He will get expelled, then not expelled. He will get kicked out, then not kicked out. I mean, these were perfectly timed owls. The next scene is a good change. Instead of going to a fake suburban law competition, the Dursleys are taking Dudley to the hospital, leaving Harry to grieve over his expulsion. He dreams about Cedric and Voldemort once more, waking up to the noises just beyond his door. The lock bursts and a team of wizards come to rescue him. And Jesus, not even an introduction or time to pack. Harry just says, screw Pivot Drive, I'll fly with these magical strangers. And where did Harry's broom come from? I could understand the others, but the shot looked like he let Mrs. Fig borrow his firebolt for some house cleaning and they broke through her house on command. So they fly away, giving us some beauty shots of London, but at the risk of exposing themselves. How is this fair? Harry can't use magic for defense, but these grown-ass wizards can fly by a cruise ship just inches away? Am I wrong? Let's just ignore that and jump right to Grimmauld Place. Mad Eye taps his cane a couple times and the entire complex emerges in between. Harry goes inside, spotting Sirius and other people engaging in talk.
Bit peaky, but I'm afraid dinner will have to wait until after the meeting's finished. No time to explain.
My God. He's heard too much! Kill him! Mrs. Weasley distracts Harry and gives him a big old hug, telling him to wait with Ron and Hermione upstairs until the meeting is finished. Nice details on the house elves hanging off the wall and the presence of Creature. And what you're seeing is what you get. Just a house elf mumbling to himself. His character was critically important near the end of the book since it did cost a life of someone dear to us, but he doesn't mean much in the film adaptation. Rowling insisted he be in the movie, but with this kind of screen time, you might as well have gone with Dobby and established a bit of spew. Anyways, Harry enters the bedroom and gets assaulted with a Granger hug, but that doesn't make him forget the fact that he's gone through the summer without any contact from his friends.
But why would he want to keep me in the dark? I mean, maybe I could help. After all, I'm the one who saw Voldemort return. I'm the one who fought him. I'm the one who saw Cedric Diggory get killed.
Harry, thought we heard your dulcet tones.
Don't bottle it up though, mate.
Although the book's Harry had too much of rage and emotion, it was all warranted. If there was any point for Daniel Radcliffe to overact, it will probably be in this movie. And I didn't have any problems with his performances in the past, but if his role's asking for an upset teen, this depression of rage isn't helping. It sounds more like he wants to cry than scream. Luckily, the Weasley twins apparate to shift the mood with some extendable ears, which the book didn't give a chance to experiment with. The kids tried listening in on the meeting, which is heavily focused on whether or not Harry should be allowed in these meetings, but then they lose their hearing to the cat. The meeting ends, and we finally get some proper greetings.
Your hearing in the Ministry used to be before the entire Wizarding World.
I don't understand. What has the Ministry of Magic got against me?
Show him.
Rowling, you monster, you. Don't you do this to me! God damn it! No! Stop! At the dinner table, Harry is finally hearing news about the Daily Prophet making Harry and Dumbledore to be liars because Minister Fudge is afraid to think Voldemort is back. Sirius also points out that Voldemort is trying to rebuild his army with not only witches and wizards, but dark creatures as well. And that's not all the Order is suspecting.
But gathering followers isn't the only thing he's interested in. We believe Voldemort may be after something.
Serious.
Something he didn't have last time.
And I'll assume dinner ended right after Harry wanted to join the Order because the next scene puts him straight to bed with more nightmares. And afterwards, the movie makes a smart decision, cutting a whole month's worth of summer vacation, jumping straight to the hearing with Mr. Weasley. A little comedy showing Mr. Weasley trying to understand Muggle machinery, and with one telephone booth, they sink down into the Ministry of Magic, looking incredibly huge and just how I pictured it in the book. The two reach the elevator, explaining briefly about the self-delivering memos, and Shakubo telling them that the hearing's been moved up to 5 minutes. What a clever way to spare time, because he asked about motorcycles in the book while also dropping the hint that the Ministry isn't that close to catching Sirius.
Yes, but we must be.
What? Nothing sinister going on here, just me and the Minister having a lovely chat. Off you go then. Mr. Weasley wishes Harry the best of luck as he goes in alone, seen in the center of a large, intimidating crowd. But not for long as Dumbledore arrives 3 hours early in case someone will be as terrible as moving up the hearing at a very late notice. But onwards with the meeting, Harry says it was the Dementors but doesn't have proof aside from himself, so Dumbledore brings Mrs. Fig as a witness, but then Fudge changes the subject about Dementors leaving to the suburbs.
Dementors don't just wander into a Muggle suburb and happen across a wizard. The odds are astronomical.
I don't think anyone would believe that Dementors were there by coincidence, Minister.
Oh man, it begins. Miss Undersecretary over here butts in trying to make Dumbledore a fool, thinking that he's implying the Ministry made the attack, but that gives him another chance to persuade Fudge that Voldemort can be in control of the Dementors, which Fudge denies. And the next line is all wrong.
The law clearly states that magic may be used before Muggles in life-threatening situations.
Laws can be changed if necessary, Dumbledore.
That line was directed towards Dumbledore in the book, saying that the Ministry had no authority to expel Hogwarts students or break their wands, which was demanded in those letters early on. I don't know who in the right mind would choose rules over safety. That series of lines was just stupidly rushed. But in the condensed defense, the court makes their verdict, clearing Harry of all charges. Harry's relieved, but Dumbledore leaves without saying the word. And there's no time to ponder this behavior because school was just about to start. Sirius tags along, aware of the risk, but he wouldn't leave Harry hanging. Not without a gift.
Anyway, I wanted you to have this. Original Order of the Phoenix.
It was actually Mad Eye giving Harry the photo in the book, but I see what the movie's doing, you sick son of a bitch. Harry starts boarding the train, but not before seeing Voldemort standing in the open, and it's the strangest thing seeing him in a suit. The man lost all hope from being human the moment he was birthed from a cauldron. But luckily that was another one of Harry's dreams as it haunts him on the ride to Hogwarts. There's also no indication about Ron and Hermione being prefects this year and having to leave Harry alone most of the time. Smart choice, movie. Smart choice. Keep his friends close and we'll all be a couple of happy Harrys. Cool? Harry gets a glimpse of the love of his life riding off in the cool carriage until reality hits him with Neville and his pet plant. The carriage arrives with Harry being the only one able to see the beauty of a dead horse. Well, not just him.
You're not going mad. I can see them too.
What an interesting necklace.
It's a charm, actually. Keeps away the nargles.
I really don't get why she's the weird one. She's trying to make conversations and she's very protective against nargles. Those little bastards are crazy. The scene cuts right into the great dining hall with a feast and Dumbledore's announcement. Basically, Hagrid is on temporary leave and the Undersecretary is now the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, who really makes her impression by interrupting him and starting her own speech. Like, damn girl, you've been here for 2 seconds. But I have to say, Imelda Staunton plays this role incredibly well, being obnoxiously sweet while talking incredibly dangerous words.
Illuminating? What a load of waffle. What's it mean?
Magic is forbidden in the corridor.
It means the Ministry's interfering at Hogwarts.
After dinner, Harry's on the roll once more, getting to go as Seamus, who blames Potter for almost not coming back to Hogwarts. Ron comes in to stop things from getting ugly, but looking at the situation closely, he's defending the ticking time bomb.
Seamus was bang out of order, mate. But he'll come through. We'll see.
I said I'm fine, Ron.
Just leave him be, Ron. He's nature's problem now. And the nightmare continues to intensify. Thanks to the quick-paced cuts matching the adrenaline, these dreams are becoming more of a priority as Harry starts seeing more of Voldemort, this mysterious corridor, and the reach for a crystal ball. But dreams die the next day as Umbridge instructs her first lesson with the dark arts. She gives a brief explanation about the owl exams and tries their lives with the set of For Dummies books. Hermione asked about actually practicing those spells, which Umbridge says is unnecessary, which shortens Harry's fuse a little more.
So according to you, Cedric Diggory dropped dead of his own accord?
Cedric Diggory's death was a tragic accident.
It was murder. Voldemort killed him. You must know that. Enough!
Harry is sent to detention with Umbridge, and we get a good view of her terrifying fury. The movie did well in demonstrating the punishment and Harry's reaction to the pain. Now just imagine reading this detention for a full week. For hours! One of the many cruelties that makes Umbridge a villainous oxymoron. But the movie only offers us 1 day of detention, and we shortly return to the Gryffindor common room as Fred and George are testing their lunchboxes on first years. But since Ron and Hermione are prefects, this doesn't concern them in the slightest.
I'm not asking you to write all of it for me.
Oh, please.
It's just, I've been busy studying for these stupid owl exams.
I'll do the introduction, that's all.
Hermione, you're honestly the most wonderful person I've ever met.
Alright movie, you can't just conclude this without showing the numerous times Ron kept bugging her about it. What, you trying to make him an or something? They both sit down to nose the scar on Harry's hand, telling him to snitch, but Harry says it's not that simple. So let me simplify it for you guys. He's right about making this personal with Umbridge and showing his sense of resilience, as well as not giving more for Dumbledore to worry about, but truth be told, he was still butthurt in the book that they weren't on speaking terms. But Harry does talk with someone. It skips over the cute moment with Cho and the Owlry, and he sends his cryptic message to Grimoire Place. But instead of sending important information about Umbridge and Hagrid's whereabouts like in the book, he's writing a little diary entry about his feelings. In the book, you're feeling alone because your friends and teachers had other matters on their hands along with your angst. Here, people want to help, but you're just pushing them away. Harry heads out to the Forbidden Forest and finds Luna Lovegood, who seemed to have lost her shoes. How quirky. They have a talk about Thistles and her beliefs about Harry being right about Voldemort. Although, maybe a little too convinced, almost like she's speaking ahead of my notes! Next morning, right after Harry tries to make up for being a dick, Umbridge and McGonagall are arguing out in the hall about Umbridge's practices, which leads into this whole montage of the first degree of the Ministry, making Umbridge High Inquisitor and giving her full authority to inspect all the teachers and their lessons. I was sitting here waiting for that one scene to bunch up a chapter or two from the book, and this wasn't a bad place to put it. Though I do prefer the book going into each teacher interaction with Umbridge, Snape slapping Ron in the back of the head just made up for it. But the one who really got the raw end of the stick was Trelawney. We all know that her predictions aren't always the strongest, so when Umbridge took note of this, she didn't hesitate to sack her. Luckily, Dumbledore's here to save the day. Again.
I have the right to dismiss my teachers. You do not, however, have the authority to banish them from the grounds. That power remains with the headmaster.
Dumbledore drops the mic and vanishes without saying another word to Harry. Later in the common room, Hermione is complaining about Umbridge until Sirius appears by fire to answer Harry's Goth letter. To answer about Umbridge and Fudge's fear of Dumbledore's army.
But things aren't going at all well with the Order. Fudge is blocking the truth at every turn, and these disappearances are just how it started before.
What is this talk of disappearances? I remember two clearly from the book, that being Podmore and Hagrid, and it was clearly stated that the Order was just plain busy. Now this could be just foreshadowing for the future of the series, which is okay, I can understand that. But for now, Sirius, get serious. Sirius disappears into the flames and Hermione ponders to the heart of Zeus, saying that they need to learn magic by their own hands. And one cool transition later, winter has hastily arrived to Hogwarts, with the trio heading to the lovely Hog's Head. This is where the meeting is taking place for Hermione's idea of actually creating Dumbledore's army, with Harry as the teacher. I'm guessing this jerk-off is Zacharias, who wants proof about Voldemort and the cause of Cedric's death, but Harry is already willing to give up after the first comment. Luckily, his friends start bringing up his shining moments like the Patronus and Basilisk, leading Harry to give us quick, somewhat motivating speech about his incredible luck.
In school, if you make a mistake, you can just try again tomorrow, but out there, when you're a second away from being murdered, or watching a friend die right before your eyes, you don't know what that's like.
This was enough to get their approval and they all start signing. Little did they know that sign-up sheet has been jinxed to capture anyone who rats them out. But for now, the gang has succeeded.
Anyway, at least we know one positive thing that came from today.
What's that?
Cho couldn't take her eyes off you, could she?
You know, I wouldn't blame you if you didn't include this. I remember several instances from the book that explored this romance, but from what I've seen so far, it barely makes an impact. It's fine, but I just hate having to make the comparison. Let's take a quick break here so I can just clear my head. Yeah. See you all. Alright, back to the fight. Where we last left off, Harry and friends are returning from Hogsmeade with Umbridge watching from above. On a completely unrelated note, she makes another decree about creating student organizations. But that doesn't matter for our wizard rebels, And this next scene is interesting but raises a question. Neville just happens to stumble upon the room requirement, which was learned from Dobby in the book. This makes much more sense for someone to just come across it, but I need to know. What did Neville need this big of a room for? To hide? That's my only guess. But the DA begin their training montage on Harry's lessons. Another good place to summarize the passing of time. We do get some funny moments here with Filch trying to capture the kids, even though they're one step ahead of him. And with the lessons themselves, Harry's trying his best teaching Expelliarmus and Stupefy. The Stupefy one is funny. Harry almost sends one kid to talk with Sirius, and Ron and Hermione have their own battle of the sexes.
I let her do that. It's good manners, isn't it?
And Umbridge finally had enough that she's putting up Decree 82? There were like 5 in the book. I mean, I get making outrageous rules, but at this point, they're not even Oh. Umbridge does her meetings, but they get her nowhere as the kids are still learning. She sets up another decree inviting the Inquisitorial squad, mainly the Slytherin crew, just like in the book, but even they can't get through the room without some hijinks. And the montage, and the montage closes with Neville mastering Expelliarmus, which got all the witches flustered like crazy. And then it's the meeting before Christmas break as Harry's congratulating them on their progress, then waits for everyone to leave for some one-on-one showtime. I like how the movie low-key shows her grief towards Cedric, and definitely not as much as the book, but it gives her Harry's shoulder to cry on. In case you're wondering, no, this does not end well. As Hermione states in the next scene, Cho's been feeling a heavy amount of emotions, from Cedric to Harry to her mom's job being threatened, but then she makes one joke and the whole conversation is forgotten. Like, I don't think we ever hear anything about this ever again. We just assume Harry got cold feet and moved on, which is unfortunate because it's another nightmare with Harry getting deeper to the truth, and he even sees Mr. Weasley inside, and a couple urges later, he's bleeding on the floor. Ron and McGonagall are taking Harry to see Professor Dumbledore, who quickly acts by sending his portraits to check on Mr. Weasley's whereabouts and the Order. And this moment is just, wow.
Albus, it was close, but they think he'll make it. What's more, the Dark Lord failed to acquire it.
Oh, thank goodness. Next we need...
Look at me!
Up to this point, Harry has yet talked to Dumbledore, and the movie did a strong reaction that not only captured the anger, but also another subtle part of the story. Out of nowhere, Snape shows up and follows Dumbledore's instructions to start occlumency lessons to help Harry resist the Dark Lord's mind penetration. And like, immediately, not even after the Christmas ham or checking on Mr. Weasley, he's just brought down to Snape's little lair and is basically mind-freaked. This goes on all night and transitions to Christmas time with the Weasleys in Sirius's home. Mr. Weasley gives a toast to Harry in his feverish dreams for saving his life, and later on, we jump back to chapter 6 of the book discussing this noble House of Black. Sirius goes a little into his own childhood, living under a pure blood family and running away to live with the Potters. I can see the movie's going for a more sympathetic approach with Sirius than the book's way of trying to make a James out of Harry. At times, it could be annoying, but it made sense because Sirius was on lockdown and wanted someone to be rebellious with, such as a moody Harry.
What if the reason for it is that I am becoming more like him? I just feel so angry all the time.
Such a teen thing to say. Always gotta blame your problems on the Dark Lord. Now with Christmas done, the kids are back at school. Hermione hears word of Hagrid back, so Harry ditches Cho to go see his giant friend. Unfortunately, Umbridge got to him first and starts questioning his disappearance. She doesn't get any answers, but Harry and his friends do as Hagrid tells them about his mission to recruiting the Giants for Dumbledore's army.
That hard to fight, to be perfectly honest. It's so big, see? I tried to convince them to join the cause, but I wasn't the only one that was trying to win them over.
Death Eaters.
Yes. Trying to persuade them to join you-know-who.
When they ask about his face, Hagrid quickly changes subjects about a storm coming, which is actually true in some parts of Azkaban, where we're actually shown the breakout of some mass murdering Death Eaters, including one Bellatrix Lestrange. And no one is more upset about this than Neville. Reading the book, I understand his worried look, and this leads into telling Harry about his parents, which we figured out in the Goblet of Fire book. This book actually went deeper by seeing Neville's family in the hospital during Christmas time, but it doesn't matter, he knows now.
I'm quite proud to be their son. But I'm not sure I'm ready for everyone to know just yet.
And we get right back into training the difficult Patronus. After that apology from the Great Hall, Seamus is now participating in the lessons, and they're all trying to get the hang of it, but not for long as the walls crack down and the big bad Umbridge is standing with her snake squad. So this is what you did, movie? Make Cho out to be the bad guy and not her friend from the book? That's effed up, dog. Umbridge, Fudge, Shacklebolt, Harry, Cho, even Percy Weasley, who doesn't squeak a word, all gather in Dumbledore's office as they try to get an explanation.
No, Professor, he had nothing to do with it. It was me.
Most noble of you, Harry, to shield me. But as has been pointed out, the parchment clearly says Dumbledore's army, not Potter's.
Fudge tries to arrest Dumbledore, but Dumbledore ain't going quietly and uses Fawkes as his grand escape. And with the headmaster gone, Umbridge was apparently the next best thing. The school is in complete despair now, with Filch throwing away living portraits, classes going on with a lack of fun, and just everyone avoiding Cho, even Harry. If it wasn't her mopey nature that drove him away, it was definitely making the headmaster a fugitive. Damn! And just as Harry is being down on himself, Hagrid comes to him with a favor. He takes him down to the Forbidden Forest, commenting a little about the centaurs, who are probably trying to kill Firenze as we speak, and has them meet his half-brother Gwarp. And two things I want to comment on. First, Ron wasn't present here. In the book, when Quidditch was still a thing, he was playing the match against Ravenclaw, the only game where he didn't suck, but Harry and Hermione missed it because Hagrid needed their help with the giant. Also, the movie's Gwarp is a lot less savage. I'm pretty sure he would have thrown Hermione back to London if she yelled at him in the book. But at least this one is competent enough to not be pulling trees. Instead, he collects junk. Forget everything you know about giants and just think about the big, friendly ones. Steven Spielberg style. After that meeting, we cut back to another occlumency lesson with Snape not getting anywhere with Harry. Harry gets frustrated trying to learn and counters Snape's spell to enter his mind, which was much more detailed and longer in the book. But the movie covers the basic points of Harry's dad being a total prick to Snape, which upsets Snape to kick Harry out and never come back. He runs out of Snape's room, running into Fred and George, consoling the weeping kid until Umbridge stands at the end of the hall with a big grin. Fred and George get a grin on their face, leaning into the owl exams. And can I just say that they're just forgettable in this movie? The book really did a great job juggling everything this year with the ministry and Quidditch and detention and all the homework piled on these kids. I really felt like they'd been preparing for the exams because of how big a deal they were. But the movie couldn't do the same, sadly. And now I'm supposed to believe that after all the crap that's been going on, had they really been studying? It's just not the same. Probably one of the biggest beefs I have with the adaptation. But in the very next second, I'm praising it all over again because of how well it combines so many things into one. There were one or two distractions in the book examinations, and making Fred and George's farewell to the school was awesome. They come in spraying wild fireworks, even the dragon to chase Umbridge out. They destroy her stupid decrees and fly off to someplace far away. In the book, with the prize money Harry gave them, they were able to open up their own joke shop in Diagon Alley. And with a lasting impression, here comes Harry with another premonition. Sirius, under Voldemort's curse, tortured about that crystal ball once again. All Harry could think of doing now is going to the place he's been dreaming about, the Department of Mysteries. But to get there, they would need to use the Flu Network, and there's only one that isn't monitored by the Ministry. In the heart of Umbridge's office, without any sort of lookout, they try using her fireplace but are immediately caught. She tries getting the truth out of Harry but gets nowhere, and Snape comes around answering to her call to bring some Verita serum, which was also used to get answers out of Cho. but Snape is none the wiser, and I just love him for this scene alone.
He's got Padfoot. He's got Padfoot at the place where it's hidden.
Padfoot? What is Padfoot? Well, what is hidden? What is he talking about, Snape?
No idea.
We knew what he was playing at, especially since we saw how strained their relationship was moments before, but poor Harry from the book came off as an idiot, blinded by his own rage. With no help from Snape, Umbridge comes down to torturing Harry with the Crucio curse until Hermione spills the bean about Dumbledore's secret weapon hiding out in the forest. It cuts into her leading Harry and Umbridge where Gwarp used to be, bringing them to a terrible predicament. Suddenly, the centaurs come out of hiding and approach the humans with one of them striking first. Umbridge then tries to choke out one of them before Gwarp comes in to save the day. After being bored or surrounded, he drops Umbridge to the centaurs, leading to the best line in the entire movie.
Do something! Tell them I mean no harm!
I'm sorry, Professor. I must not tell lies.
What are you doing? I am Senior Under-Secretary Dolores Umbridge! Let me go!
Umbridge is taken away, and the two meet up with the others and think about the next course of action. Harry still wants to go alone, but Neville reminds him that they didn't build this army for nothing. So, thinking about how to get there, Luna offers the Thistles to fly back to the Ministry. And why are we getting just Harry and Luna's perspective? It would have been much funnier to see the others, since they actually can't see the horses. Sometimes this movie just passes up way too good of an opportunity. In record time, they make it to the Department of Mysteries. Doesn't showcase much of the mystery this department contained and cuts straight into the room with crystal balls. Harry goes to the spot he envisioned but finds no one, and Neville points at a ball with Harry's name on it, and it tells the prophecy.
The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. And the Dark Lord shall mark him as his equal, but he shall have power the Dark Lord knows not.
Hermione points out someone in the distance and is none other than Lucius Malfoy, with Bellatrix sneaking up from the back.
He knows how to play. Itchy, bitty, baby. Potter.
As they're being surrounded by fellow Death Eaters, Malfoy explains Voldemort's plan, which Hermione figured out earlier in the stairway, that Harry's been used to pick up the prophecy just so the Death Eaters can take it from him. But Harry and the gang are quick on their feet as they stupefy their surroundings and make a run for it. This gives us a chase scene pinning students against thugs and showing the progress made through the DA lessons. But it's nowhere near as impressive or thrilling as the action-packed scene from the book where they will battle in different locations, casualties on both ends, and demonstrating more of a struggle with the fact that they are still kids. So with a reducto, the kids make a huge mess with the debris of balls falling from their shelves. They run back out the door and fall all the way down into the room with the archway. Before they could even investigate, the Death Eaters have arrived. Yes, just stand behind this mysterious, eerie archway with your backs turned. Nothing could possibly go wrong with that. In the swarm of black, Harry's friends are caught one by one, and Malfoy gives Potter the choice, the prophecy for his friends. But as soon as Malfoy gets his wish, the entourage has arrived.
Get away from my godson.
Malfoy breaks the crystal ball, which feels much more satisfying than Neville dropping it in the book, and the rest of the Order start arriving like the flippin' Avengers to take on the Death Eaters. Sirius tries to be a good parent and tells Harry to escape, but are then fighting a duo against some Death Eaters. This feels just as exciting as the book's battle, but what has me choked up is this part. The book wasn't very clear in this part, mostly because it was describing the scene from a distance. You couldn't hear the incantation of the death curse, and you just see Sirius falling back. To summarize my reaction, it was just a series of... What? 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 Sirius dies and leaves Harry to scream in agony. He spots Bellatrix running away and catches her before she's able to escape. Incredibly easy too, for a witch of her status. The book put up more of a fight, but here we are. Harry at the crossroads on whether he should kill her or not, and Voldemort appears trying to tempt his urges. But Harry doesn't give in, and soon enough, Dumbledore arrives for the third time to give us one of the greatest battles this series has to offer. Fiery snake, a huge ball of water, a missile of glass shards. The attacks and counters prove just how equal in strength they are with each other. But then the final attack is put to the test as Voldemort disappears and enters Harry's mind once more to attack his vulnerability. All the misery and anger Harry's felt, he was losing control of his emotions and letting Voldemort take control, just so Dumbledore might have to kill him as the book described. But here comes Dumbledore with his advice.
Look at me. Harry, it isn't how you are like. It's how you are not.
Was that really the central issue of all this? In the book, it was clear it was about Harry's emotions, and that made sense. So I feel like the movie made up this overbearing reason that didn't really come up much. And just as luck, Harry's friends arrive, giving him some pleasant thoughts to fight with Voldemort, and the fact that he pities the Dark One's loneliness was enough to send him away, giving one last statement.
You're a fool, Harry Potter. And you will lose everything.
The Ministry arrives to catch one glimpse of Voldemort and finally see the truth Harry and Dumbledore had been spouting. After a series of articles, Umbridge is out and Dumbledore is back at Hogwarts. He enters a private chat with Harry to apologize about ignoring him during all of this and why he didn't tell him about the prophecy. I will say that the book nailed this scene a lot better, because out of all the people Harry lashed out on, Dumbledore was the one who deserved it the most and responded in the most reasonable way. Book Harry practically tore up his room, but Dumbledore understood what it meant to be a teen and a teen dealing with adult shit. But real talk, Dumbledore really screwed the pooch on this one. I mean, he didn't even give Harry a chance or a warning, nothing. After the talk, Harry runs to Luna, who's putting up posters for her missing stuff. She's a weird one alright, but the movie made her too weird. She wasn't always this lucid. I don't know, it just makes her one-dimensional. But after that, Harry meets with his friends outside, ready to take the train back home.
I've been thinking about something Dumbledore said to me.
What's that?
But even we've got one thing that Voldemort doesn't have.
A nose?
Worth fighting for.
I mean, the pure blood world is something, but what he really doesn't have are nostrils. And once again, the train leaves Hogwarts for a 5th time, ending Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Thinking back to my review of Chamber of Secrets, I declared the movie the winner because of how incredibly close they were, only that the movie had a little bit more action to it. And that's how I felt with most of the Harry Potter adaptations. They were so close to perfection, but there was just one key element that always gave the book a clear advantage. But ever since The Goblet of Fire, I'm starting to notice this gap between the books and movies. The longer the story, the bigger the gap is and the more details that are left out. And trying to make the longest book the shortest movie is ambitious at best, but I can't deny that leaving out most of the details left the story fractured. So, book wins. I will say that the choices made to shorten the story were smart and entertaining. Specifically, I'm talking about the montages. There were a lot to show the passage of time, the power of Umbridge increasing, and the growth coming from Dumbledore's army. Having no Quidditch was disappointing, but it didn't really tie to the main plot, so it had to be done, along with Spew and the romance between Harry and Cho. And the performances weren't too dry either. Staunton as Dolores Umbridge was the highlight of this movie. I feared this Toad woman in the book, and seeing the performance match that bittersweet personality was amazing. Right down to the coughs and the forced smiles, she's one of the best villains I've ever seen, and I'm thankful that the movie brought her to life. And I'll give David Yates props for getting the tone of the story right. After Goblet of Fire, we could sense a little dread arriving after Voldemort's return. This movie isn't afraid to get dark, literally and figuratively. The visuals and set design still had me jaw-dropping. I liked the abuse of Pink in Umbridge's office and the endless aisles of crystal balls within the Department of Mysteries. This was all just a pretty movie. The movie did succeed in the attempt to adapt the Order of the Phoenix, but there was just so much that was left out that is very, very hard to ignore. I believe that Rowling really did everything to make Harry's life more complicated this year around. The dreams and links with Voldemort, the presence of Umbridge turning Hogwarts into her own personal prison, the pressure of owl exams and figuring out what to do with his life, struggling with a social life and being kept in the dark about everything. All of this juggled around to make Harry angry, making it harder for him to control his emotions and allowing Voldemort to manipulate him. Not only did it play an integral part of the story, but it stayed consistent with the theme of adolescence. The constant abuse of Creature that Sirius kept dealing with so common that you wouldn't think much of the betrayal he would pull at the end telling Voldemort about Harry's relationship. The one scene with Sirius telling Creature to get out set the whole finale in motion and could have been avoided if Harry had just returned to the school. And finally, the conversation with Dumbledore that follows his perspective on not only why he's been ignoring Harry, but the growing relationship between the two and his hesitation to tell Harry the whole truth. It was a talk that came at the precise moment to give all of Harry's anger a focus. And when it's all over, all that pent-up anger the book has been holding finally concludes. Ron's journey through the Quidditch team, the next step for Fred and George Weasley, the Quibbler interview, the Cho Chang art, so much has happened this year that I wish the movie went overboard to explain. I read that 40 minutes was cut from the movie, so imagine what might have been included. It didn't have the same amount of angst as the book and really didn't matter to the story. The plot was pretty straightforward and didn't feel as overwhelming as the book. The last conversation with Dumbledore didn't even compare to the book scene. Just about everything the movie did, the book achieved with much more emotion and additional details to make the story flow naturally. Watching the movie, I could instantly recognize where it was rushed, how unnatural some of the changes were, and eliminating most of that charm from previous Harry Potter movies. The movie was what you expect from a Harry Potter film, but it's heavily condensed from the original written story that you're only getting the summary. The plot points and main issues are covered, but if you're looking for the true experience, investing some time in this big, well-balanced book wouldn't be a bad idea. With that said, those are my final thoughts on Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And if you don't agree, you can read the book, watch the movie, and make your own opinions. I'm Katana. And from this point forward, I am going completely blind through the rest of the series. I mean, aside from major events, I barely remember anything from Deathly Hallows and Half-Blood Prince. So it should be interesting to see where the story goes next. But until then, I'll see you all in the next review. Play me out, TK. Just want to give a quick thank you to my Patreon supporters. It's because of you all that I'm able to do the thing I love. And if anyone's interested in watching these reviews 3 days before their initial release, check out the page and become a pledger today. Anyways, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and if you haven't already, subscribe and ring-a-ding that notification bell to stay updated on the latest reviews. Follow my Twitter and Facebook for any additional updates. Didn't like the representation of wizard teens? Well, how about a more realistic approach by following the telepathic teenage girl in my last review of Carrie? Got a book/movie review you'd like to see one day? Well, leave a suggestion in the comments down below and I'll be sure to check it out. Sometimes it's good to just let it all out. Teachers giving you trouble? Start a club. Exams are being brutal? Study with a smart friend. The Dark Lord taking over your mind? I'll get back to you on that. Dolores Umbridge is a fantastic Dolores Umbridge is a fantastic village. You should go visit her. There's a whole class of writing notes and having your pen sinked in blood. It's called Umbridge Village. And if you put an L, it's Lumbridge. Like that town in RuneScape. Holy shit, I made a connection. Theory time. Dolores Umbridge was born from Lumbridge. From RuneScape. Yeah. That's the cold hard facts, ladies and gentlemen.